former past president of New York chapter, right, AJ?
Greater New York and Central Atlantic, yeah.
That's right, and I had the pleasure to serve on that board as well. One of the original founding members of MrxPros, founder and CEO of Good Human Partners. He's also a DJ, a beer connoisseur, a father, a really good friend, but other than that, he's also a damn good human. So please, let's bring a warm welcome for our good friend, AJ Keirans. AJ, you have the floor.
Thanks so much, Kai. So yeah, as Kai said, I've been around since the beginning here. Shout out to the OGs. I think that this is something that's really played an important part for many folks, myself included, at different times, highs and lows. I think we have a great mix of, small business owners, entrepreneurs, and folks who are kind of in between, jobs and looking to find that next opportunity. And so I thought, as somebody who, you may have seen some of my posts who, shares their story and their journey, I try to be as, open to hopefully support and inspire others. And so the topic today is, getting off the treadmill, and it's not a New Year's resolution, or, as you can see from my very big and fuzzy sweater, maybe I should hop on the treadmill a little bit. So we'll focus on that later. We'll hold that to be. But as you may or may not know, last year was a really high and low year for me. It was, I was laid off in April, and for many folks, some of you may be here. You're not alone. It's a tough point for folks, and it can be a little humbling too, especially when you committed so much of yourself to a company or an organization. So I feel that, and so as part of my journey, I had a lot of great interviews. I met a lot of wonderful people. I had some opportunities and offers. But someone said to me once, they said, "Oh, you're getting back into sales again. So you're just hopping right back on the treadmill." And it just felt, it just kind of like sucked the life out of me. It just felt so kind of deflating that it was hard for me to make that choice again. Because on the flip side, I had clients who said to me, when you start your own business, and I thought about it kind of really like high level, but never really had the kind of the guts to go for it. And, delivered, we had proposals, and before it was official, was, working on things. And, that was, 6+ months ago, and we haven't looked back. So when I think about that, I think about like the fact that I had to take kind of that leap and really dive in, and like, how did I get here? Because I think a lot of times, at least for me, you don't always look at the full story. You kind of live in that moment of the last few months of that last year. But when I look at my career, it's been about taking chances and kind of continuing to learn and evolve. Pretty much right out of college, I worked at the original survey sampling. I think we were under 100 people at that time, and I was in an IT, did web design, desktop support, and kept learning throughout the business. I didn't really know much about market research for a long time. Even during that period, as Kai mentioned, I did radio. I did a radio show, and I did that for over 10 years. I thought that could be a career. And so I went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I took that leap and kind of put my chips in there, interviewed at some of the rock stations here in Connecticut, and it was just running a computer program. And so I was like, well, I can say I tried. I had no regrets. And, I moved on, managed a band, did some stuff there. So like, music's always been important to me. The IT support, I was at survey sampling for 12 years. I did, some of the first, online surveys in the industry. I remember saying to my boss that, I think online is going to be a big thing because, AOL and Prodigy, to date myself, were popular at the time. And it just seemed like a new way for people to connect and share their opinions. We were phone very heavy, and I got laughed at. They kind of like tapped me on the head and sent me back to my office. But eventually I led the, survey programming team for North America for about 4.5 years. But that evolved into me being, looking around and realizing that I was leading the client calls, that I was leading the focus of the projects, that I was able to talk marketing, sales, tech, nerd. I could kind of do it all for everybody in the meeting, but I couldn't at the end of the day control my take home. We were a lot of times, shout out to all the project managers out there. I think that you're super important and sometimes underappreciated in a way. You're kind of like the teachers of the market research industry. But I realized that like, no matter how hard I worked, I didn't have a commission, and we were getting unrealistic kind of goals that we would get like a small piece of the pie. So I got approached to join Pure Profile in the sales role. And I was really nervous because I led a team, I was doing well, but I was at a ceiling and starting a family. But my wife said, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're still going to be a really good programmer. And so that was kind of the leap I took. That was like 12 years ago. And that really evolved, and I got more involved with Insights Association. I was a, volunteer. Shout out to IA and all the volunteers. If you're not involved, it's a great organization. And that also got me more involved in continuing to learn, which is really kind of the foundation of a lot of this, is that taking that chance, looking to evolve, raise your hand when you can and go from there. So I didn't know a lot about sales. I equated to my being a band manager and trying to get a gig in a new city. You're not gonna get the Friday night, headlining spot, the multiple thousand Gen Pop consumers. You're gonna get that really difficult, top up, earn your stripes projects. And I really valued that. I learned a lot at Critical Mix, where it was really about service and customer focus and finding solutions, and continue to kind of, push myself, through that. And so I think a lot of times we're kind of taught that like maybe we shouldn't, take those chances, that there's always a safer option. And I thought of that numerous times, right? Like I said, I have two boys, they were much younger at the time, and thought like, well, I can't take some of these chances because, diapers aren't cheap, especially now, getting into high school and thinking about college, you take those chances and it can be a risk. But as I've done all these things, I've always thought, what's the worst that could happen? I don't want to live with the regret of not going for it. And that's not to say it's easy. I can't stay up here and say starting your own business has been easy. I probably work twice as many hours as I had before, but there's a level of fulfillment that was missing that I didn't know was possible. Right? As a parent, they say you didn't know you could love something so much until you have your first child. And so, that's really kind of how I look at it. It's a new part of me that's been really exciting. And in doing so, again, thanks to the OG crew, I wasn't, I was a quant guy for years, but I just saw these really great people doing, wonderful things and sharing research they were working on or telling stories. And it kept coming back to qualitative. And, a lot of them were also small business owners. So I was really intrigued. And so, I attended QRCA and really have made an effort to do more learning and qualitative. And so, putting things out there to build them to be, I think at some point I would definitely like to be trained to be a moderator and those types of things. I just think it's really important. It's made me a better partner and better, service and solutions for my clients. And so I think that's really the key for me, is the idea that where you are right now is not the end all be all. That the book isn't, closed, the chapter isn't done. It's just a piece of that story that I think that a lot of times we don't go for it. And it's, like I said, easier said than done. I can't sit here and say that, there hasn't been some life learning lessons. Like, for instance, I don't know if you know this, but when you start a new company and get a new domain and email, for the first many months, a lot of those emails go in people's junk folders, because that's a lot what the spammers do. And so you're sending emails, working on pitches and things of that nature, and they're just falling. You're not even getting a chance to start. So you learn all these like little things, tax laws and the like. And so, you learn to juggle, but you are stronger than you might realize. And I hope that, like, seeing, my story and kind of taking a chance and, how happy I am, might inspire you. It doesn't have to be in your professional life too. It could be in other areas of your life that maybe, you've never, gone for, or, So my hope today is through the journey, through the story, that you see that, while my story is pretty unique, that at each phase of that, there's been people who've supported me, who've mentored, a lot of the folks in this room have, looked out for me or given me guidance. And I think that's really something that's really important. So maybe, there might be something out there. I know I've had a lot of calls with folks who were where I was, even on time, who were where I was, 9 months ago. And it's really hard. And I think that, just having somebody there to talk to sometimes can give you the confidence to take that next step. And so that's the getting off the treadmill and going for it. So I hope that, hope this inspires you a little bit. And if you haven't connected, please don't hesitate to reach out.